Hello and welcome to this short video on email payslips. My name is Steve Power and I'm a product specialist here at Pegasus Software. Over the next 10 minutes or so, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of email payslips and answer questions such as, if we're sending payslips by email, are they secure? What about P60s? Can they be emailed? If some employees do not have an email address, what happens then? Can I still send them paper payslips? Are there other benefits to both employers and employees by using email payslips? And how has this been implemented within Opera 3? Okay, let's answer these questions by looking at the software and see how email payslips have been implemented. Once you've logged into Opera 3, you'll see there's a new option in the payroll called Email Admin. This allows you to set up the email payslip system. And as you can see, there are a number of options available to you. However, before we look at these options, let's go into the payroll processing form and let's see the changes we've introduced here. If I look at the Details and Bank tab, Additional Information, you can see that there's new options being added. If an employee opts to receive email payslips, then tick this box here. This then gives you access to two other email addresses. The first one is labelled Work Email. The second one is labelled Home Email Address. In my example here, you can see that I've selected to send the payslips to the work email address. I could, of course, chosen to send them through to my home email address, or indeed I could select to have them to be sent to both of these addresses. Note also that there is an option here to determine where you want the password to be sent through to. In my case, I'm sending it through to the work email address. If I look at the Action button, there's an option here to change the password. When you install Opera 3, you need to run an option called Update Data Structures. This converts the data into the format of the new version of Opera that has just been installed. We've amended this routine so that it automatically creates a randomly generated password for each employee. That's fine, but if an employee wants to have a password that they are more likely to remember, then you can amend it here. So for instance, let me change the password here to be password. And let's save it away. Note that when we return back to the Additional Information tab, we cannot see the password. It has been encrypted and stored in the database in its encrypted format, i.e. it's a secure password. Now, this sort of process might be okay for setting up your employee email addresses and passwords if you have, say, a dozen people in the company. However, if you have, say, 250 employees in your organization, then this could be quite a task. So, what have we done to help you start sending email payslips? If we go back to the Email Admin, you can see the first option on here is Quick Email Setup. This is designed to make the setup of the email system much quicker and easier. Notice we have two options here. The first option allows you to enter the email details. If I select this option, you can see that it allows us to go through and identify an individual, and it allows us to go through and say, do they want to get an email? If so, what is their work address? Do they want it to be sent to a home email address? And do they want to overwrite the randomly generated password? And I can save this. And then I can move on to the next person. This is an optimized form that allows you to enter and modify the data quickly and simply. Alternatively, there's a second option available to us. This allows us to go through and create an Excel spreadsheet that has all the data, and it therefore allows us to override that information. So it launches an Excel spreadsheet, and I can therefore use this to modify the information. So for instance, I can go to Brian Jones, enter that email. Then go to the next person, and so on and so on and so on. So in other words, I could use this option to build up the spreadsheet, and once I've entered all this information into the spreadsheet, I can then use the importer to import this information. So if I go to the import wizard, I have an option here to import the payroll employee contact details from that spreadsheet. And then this would allow me to go through and import it into the system. As you can see, we've tried to make it quick and easy to get the email information for your employees back into the system. Okay, what's next? If we go back into the email admin, the second option allows us to go through and design email covers. As you can see, there are 4 email covers that we can create for the 4 different types of emails that the system can generate. Let's go through each of these in turn. The welcome email template. The welcome email can be sent to employees to introduce them to the concept that email payslips are being implemented within your company. If we look at a typical welcome email, we will want to include information such as, when is this being introduced? So in my first sentence here, I have said, we are pleased to advise you that on the 31st of January 2015, email payslips will be sent to you. That the email payslips will be sent to you by PDF, which will be password protected. And we're also including the email addresses. And we're asking them to confirm, are these email addresses correct? Notice down the right hand side we have a range of fields, and I've introduced some of these fields. The first one I've introduced is the forename, and I'm also pulling in the fields that I have the details of their email addresses. So you can see that we have a very flexible editor here that allows us to go through and create these email covers. Okay, let's design the email cover for the password. Similarly, the password email cover allows you to tell your employees the password that we applied to the PDFs that are attached to their emails. In my email cover here, obviously I'm including that password. But in the body of the text, I might give them an option to say that if you don't want to use this password, then please contact the HR team and tell us the password that you want to use. So in which case we're notifying them we want to change. And again, you can see down the right hand side, there's a whole range of fields that can be added into this email template. Let's have a look at the next one. This is for the payslips. This next option is to create the email covers that we use to send the payslips to the employees. When you select this option, notice that it offers you a payroll group. This is because you can create different email covers for each payroll group. This provides flexibility because the information you may want to give to your weekly paid employees, for instance, might be different to those that you want to give to your monthly paid employees. You might, for instance, have different contacts in the payroll team for the weekly paid employees. However, if you only want to use one payslip email cover, then simply set up one for the main payroll group and leave the other payroll groups blank. The system will use this single email cover by default. And here we go. This is the email cover for the payslips. And again, you can see what I've added in here. I've added in from that list of fields on the right hand side, I've added in the payroll period, and I've also added in the full name of the individual that's going to get this email. And finally, we can design the email cover for the P60s. The same rules apply for the P60s as it did for the payslips. If you only want to have one P60 email cover, then simply create one for the main payroll group, or you can go through to the individual payroll groups and create covers for those. And here's typically the P60 email cover. Okay, we are now ready to start to send our emails to our employees. Let's first of all send the welcome emails to the employees. We go to the email admin and we take this option here to generate the welcome emails. Remember, before we send this email, we would have updated our employee records so that we have their email addresses for those that are going to receive email payslips and P60s. Let's generate the welcome email for those employees in the monthly group. Note, we can select the employees from to. We can also add attachments, which can be really useful. I'm going to add two attachments to this email. My first attachment is an email policy document telling them the reasons for changing through to email payslips. I'm also going to attach the document which is the contract of employment, because I might have made changes to that particular document and I want to make them aware of this. So I'm going to include these two attachments with this welcome email. First, we can get an audit trail of who we're going to send this email through to. And here we go, here's each of those employees and their email addresses that it's going to be sent through to. Do I wish to generate them? Yes, please. And here's a list of the employees where I can go through and choose who's going to get the email. In my case, I'm only going to send it through to Richard Godson. And that's it. It's now sending that email through to Richard Godson. And here we go. Dear Richard, these are the email addresses we're using to send you the emails to. Please be aware that it's going to be introduced on the 31st of Jan, and here are those two attachments. So I can look at the attachment here for the pay slip policy and the changes to the contract of employment. So that's the first of the emails being sent through to that individual. Okay, let's now send through the password email. So we're going to generate the email passwords. Again, I'm going to choose the monthly group. And again, I can be selective. I can choose the employees from to, and I can add their attachments through to this. The first thing it does is it generates an audit trail for you. Okay, those are all the people and those are their email addresses. Then it says, do you want to generate the password email? Again, I'm not going to send it to everybody. I'm just going to send it to Richard Godson. And that's it. It sent that email off to Richard Godson. Okay, here we can see the email has arrived. And it's telling me what the password happens to be. We can look at history of these. If we go into the end of year special reports, we can see there's a historical email report. And if I select this option here, I can be selective employees from, but I can also look at the types of emails that have been sent. In my example, I'm going to look at all of them. And I'm going to send this report through the screen. Here we can see that a welcome email has been sent, and here we can see that a password email has been sent. Okay, let's run a payroll calculation. We're running this payroll calculation so that we can go through and generate the payslips and see the payslips being sent as an email payslip. So there's the payroll calculation done. Let's now go through to the payment reports and let's generate the payslips. Notice we can define the payslip destination. We've got printer, and this is for those people that are still receiving their payslips on paper. We've got web, and this is for those that are using the Pegasus web exchange to publish their payslips through to the web. And finally, we've got a new option that tells the system we want to generate the email payslips. I'm only going to select this particular option here. Notice as well, we can add up to 3 attachments to the email payslip. I'm going to preview and process this. I'm not going to send it to all of my employees. I'm just going to send it through to Richard Godson. It allows me to go through and preview that payslip, and then it allows me to go through and produce that payslip in an email format. That has now sent the payslip via email to me. And when that email has arrived, I can look at that payslip email, and here we can see, here's the payslip email. Dear Richard, here's your payslip for period 12, and here's your PDF. If I open up that PDF, notice it's asking me for a password. If I give it the correct password, then I can open up that PDF. And there we go, there's the payslip for Richard Godson, sent securely because I needed a password to open it. The employee can obviously print this, they could save it, and of course they could open any attachments that have been attached to it. This is a modern and efficient way of notifying employees when and what they have been paid. Okay, let's now generate the P60s. So I'm going through here and generate the P60 end of year for my monthly group. And again, notice it offers the P60 destinations of printer for those that are still to receive paper P60s, web for those that are using the Pegasus web exchange to publish their P60s to the web, and the new option that tells the system that we want to generate email P60s. And again, notice we've got the 3 attachments that are available to us. I'm going to preview and process this. I'm not going to send it to all of my employees. I'm just going to send it through to Richard Godson. It gives me an audit trail first of all, which I can therefore print through to screen. I can preview them on screen, as I'm doing in this case, to make sure that the information is correct before I commit to send them out as an email version. Or I might wish to have printed copies of the P60s that I retain for my own company records. The choice is mine. Then it asks me, do I want to produce those P60s? And I'm going to say yes. And now those P60s have been sent. And if we want to look at these P60s, then we can look at the P60 email, and here we can see here's the P60 email, and if we open up the attachment, it asks me for the password to look at it, and here I can see the P60. These documents need to be retained so the employee could save either the email or they could save the PDF file that was attached to that email. They need never contact the HR team again to ask for a copy of these documents. And again, we can have a look at the history of these being sent. So if I take this as historical report, I can be selective, but I'm going to choose all of those email types. And I'm going to publish this report through the screen. And here we can see that Richard was sent a welcome email, a password email, a payslip that was sent to them on that date. They were also sent to their P60, was also sent on that date. So we've now got a complete history of the emails that were sent through to this particular individual. I think it would be useful to point out what's going on here. In the background, there is a scheduler service operating on the server. This service takes the email payslips and P60 files, encrypts them with the employee password, and merges them with the relevant email cover. They are then emailed to the employees via the SMTP server. This is why we have an option to check the email status to make sure that those emails have been sent. If I take this option to check, it therefore shows us what was sent and what was the action date on there. So we can see that these emails have been sent through to those individuals. If an employee says they didn't get their email, can we resend them? Of course we can. If we go into the processing form, for Richard Godson for instance, look at the history details, we can see off the action button there's an option here to resend their payslip. Do I want to send that payslip to Richard? Yes please. That will then go through and resend that particular payslip. Equally, we can go into the web P60s. We can therefore resend the email P60. And that will therefore go through and send both of those documents through to Richard. And that's it for email payslips and P60s in Opera 3. As you've just seen, email payslips provide employees with a far better way of receiving their payslips. It also gives the payroll team more time in keeping up to date with legislative changes and running their daily payroll duties rather than spending time printing and stuffing payslips into envelopes. Okay, let's just recap on the advantages that we'll see here. From an employer's perspective, sending email payslips and P60s will save time because it's quicker and simpler than sending printed versions. It also saves money because it eliminates the need to order paper copies of these documents, print them, and then pay the cost of postage. Employees will instantly view their current and historic payslips that have been mailed to them. They can also print them and save them. They are secure because they are password protected. As you have seen, it is easy to set up the system for email payslips, but if you have employees who do not have access to emails, then they can continue to receive their printed payslips. It's all about flexibility. Email payslips and P60s are included as standard in Opera 3. It is free of charge and provides another reason why Opera 2 payroll customers should consider of upgrading through to Opera 3. And by design, setting up and sending email payslips and P60s are quick, simple and intuitive to use. Thank you for taking time to watch this introduction to email payslips and P60s that have been introduced into Opera 3 payroll. For further information, please contact your Pegasus partner or visit Pegasus at pegasus.co.uk.